Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. My name is Larry Otterback, and welcome to the Oldham County Board of Adjustments Court of Appeals. Today is March 17th. It's 9 o'clock, and we are now in session. We have two cases before us today, both of which are going to use the same procedures. I'm going to swear staff in. We're going to read, our secretary's going to read the case, and then the staff member's going to come forward and give us a staff report. There's going to be a round of questioning by the board to staff. When we're done with that, I'm going to call you, the applicant, forward. You're going to come forward, raise your right hand, state your name and address, and tell us what it is that you'd like to do. You have 20 minutes to do so. Clock is on the wall. Once you're done with that, there'll probably be a round of questions by the board members to you. When we're done with that, I will call forward anybody that wishes to speak in favor of the application, and then those opposed. Each of those have 10 minutes to speak in favor and 10 minutes in opposition, and there might be a round of questioning by the board members to those folks as well. And when we're done with that, we'll have rebuttals and final statements, 5 minutes for each. And when we're done with that, I'll close the floor and open it up for general discussion among the board members, and then call for an up and down vote. Please make sure your cell phones are turned off. If you need to take a call, please excuse yourself from the courtroom. Do whatever you need to, just make sure it's off when you come back in. Board members, make sure your mics are on. And with that, Mike, would you like to read the first one?
Okay. Docket OC 16-005. An application has been filed requesting a conditional use permit for an off-premises sign to be located at 4200 block of West Highway 146, Buckner.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. All right. Good morning, Amy Alvey with Oldham County Planning Development Services. As Mr. Riley stated, this is your first case of the day. This is, the property doesn't actually have an address. There's no physical structures on it other than the existing sign. So it's in the 4200 block of West Highway 146 in Buckner. The property is zoned I-2 heavy industrial. This is an area view of the property. As you can see, there are no structures on it. The hashed areas here usually notes of impervious surface like gravel or some type of driveway. This is the aerial view of the property. The star on the map is the approximate location of the sign. This is the current zoning. The purple there is I-2 heavy industrial. Red, which is over in this corner, is C3. The yellow is R2, and then the light color here, and here is C1 commercial. On December 19, 2002, the Oldham County Board of Adjustments approved a request to have an off-premise directional sign that was 8 square feet for a subdivision that was under construction. The sign was allowed to be placed on the property for 3 years and was to be located next to the existing sign, which is in question today. Section 290.030 sign definitions. The definition of an off-premises sign is a sign that directs attention to a business, commodity, service, or entertainment conducted, sold, or offered at a location other than the premise on which the sign is located. These are the sign regs that speaks to off-premise signage. It says all off-premise signs must receive approval of a conditional use from the appropriate Board of Adjustments prior to the issuance of a sign permit from the Planning and Zoning Office. In addition to any condition of approval which the board applies to an off-premise sign approval, the sign must also comply with the sign regulations for the zoning district in which it is located and shall be counted towards the total number of signs allowed. Off-premise signs also will not be allowed located within, it says 50 feet from street intersections as measured along the curb or edge of pavement. The placement of one panel on top of another panel is prohibited. The intent of that definition or regulation there is that if it can't be a multi-tenant off-premise sign. So if I had a business, Rob had a business, and Larry had a business, you couldn't have multiple panels on it. It doesn't mean that you can't have layered panels as they do, like for the names of the agents, because there's spacing in between. That is intended, or how we interpret the intention of that regulation is to not allow multi-tenant off-premise signs. The maximum height for all off-premise signs is 35 feet, or the maximum height allowed for the on-premise sign for this zoning. And off-premise signs are not allowed in the city limits of LaGrange. This is the adjoining property to the south. The property backs up to CSX Railroad and Old LaGrange Road. This is adjoining property to the east. You'll see where Old LaGrange Road wraps around. Used to be the old daycare. Now it's the Wolfery, I believe, where it's a pet grooming store, and runs along behind Old LaGrange Road there. This is adjoining properties to the north. And then this is the adjoining property. It was kind of hard to get to the east from the location, but there you'll see there's a existing gravel and stuff that's over there. It's a parking lot that is actually to the west. I'm sorry, to the east. Turned around. The applicant is requesting approval of conditional use permit to allow the placement of signage on the back of an existing off-premise sign. Kentucky Farm Bureau currently utilizes the existing off-premise sign, which is one-sided and faces at an angle to the west where the eastbound drivers can view the sign. The applicant, Kentucky Farm Bureau, would like to add signage to the back side of the existing sign so drivers westbound would view the sign, and also straighten the sign out so it's more perpendicular to Highway 146. The sign will remain in the same location. It'll just be straightened up just a little bit. The proposed signage would be a duplication of the existing sign except for the agent's names being different. There is no history of an off-premise sign permit for this existing sign and has been in place for over 20 years. So they are here today basically to clean up the request and the use of the existing sign that is there, and then also to have placement of signage on the back side. Section 290-100 off-premise signs, on-premise signs for the I-1 and I-2 industrial districts. You'll see here they are 25 feet or more is the setbacks. So the maximum sign height is 35 feet and maximum sign area is 75 square feet, and that's 75 square feet per side. So if it was a two-sided sign, they could have a total of 150. This is the existing sign that is in place now, and you can, it's hard to tell, but you can see a little bit of an angle. If you drove past it, you can, it's just off kilter just a little bit, not much. That's kind of hard to see. This is the dimensions of the sign. The larger sign is 4 by 10, and then each of the agent signs are 1 by 8, and then it is approximately 11 feet in height. And then it's approximately 28 feet from the edge of pavement. Excuse me. This was the proposed sign layout for the backside of the existing sign. So it'll say Kentucky Farm Bureau. It'll have the 3 agents there listed. And they will be required to submit a sign application if this was approved to permit the signage on the back. So in summary, the request for conditional use permit to allow the use of an off-premise sign located at 4200 block of West Highway 146. Be happy to answer any questions.
Where's the business?
It's in Crestwood. You may clarify that with the applicant, but I believe it's at 6334 West Highway 146.
That's correct.
Yep.
Amy, it meets all other, all regulations for signage?
Yes, yes. Yeah. They're under the height requirement. They're under the maximum square footage that's allowed.
Setbacks?
Because you can have in I-1 and I-2, you know, it can be as close as 5 feet. But obviously then it lessens the maximum sign area.
Who owns the property?
Mr. Shaw, which is here today.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Amy?
But the sign was never permitted to begin with?
We have no record of any permit for an off-premise sign.
I just want to add, to answer that question, this has been there a long time, and we consider it a legal non-conforming sign. The fact that we can't find a permit doesn't mean that it's not appropriate. It's just been there forever. Their intent is to expand a legal non-conforming use, and that's why they're here.
That's good. Any further questions for Amy? Thank you.
The property owner is here, the applicant is here, and the applicant's attorney is here as well.
Very good, thanks. Okay, if we could have the applicant come forward. I presume the attorney, you're going to do most of the speaking.
Good morning.
Morning, if you want to raise your right hand, state your name and address, be sworn in.
He's the attorney.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say,
They need to.
Yes, go ahead, please.
My name is Kathy Dowden. My residence is 6011 Cottage Lane, Crestwood, Kentucky.
Okay, and yes, ma'am, you?
Rochelle Howe, Howe, and I'm at 3410 North Buckeye Lane in Goshen.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
morning. Joe Wells, here, James and Wells is my office. I'm here in LaGrange. We're asking for approval of the sign. But just to make it clear, the sign that is currently present is for the LaGrange Office of Farm Bureau. The sign we're asking to approve that sign, but we're also going to put something on the back of the sign, which will be the Crestwood office, which is what my clients are here for. So we want approval of the whole sign, but what's there now is going to have something put on the back, and that's what we're talking about really here today. I think Amy laid everything out really well. I don't really have a lot to add to that. Just ask that we approve the sign.
Okay. Okay, any questions for Joe or the applicant? Amy, this might be a question for you, don't know, or Joe, maybe you. The application, when I read it, I thought the application was just for the extension of the existing sign. Joe, you just made a comment, and Jim, I think we're also asking to clear the title of this off-premise sign as well as the extension of it.
Correct. And what you would have in your motion would be to approve the off-premise sign. So you would basically approve the location and the front, basically them allowing them to use the front and the rear, and the sign to remain. Because it's a legal non-conforming sign right now, so it can stay as it is, because it's in compliance.
Right. And if you chose to approve this, it would be a conforming sign because it would have a conditional use.
All right, very good. Joe, the existing sign doesn't have lights. No, you're not going to do anything else to the sign other than add to the backside.
It's going to look exactly the same as it is right now, except it's going to be on the backside. It's going to say the Farm Bureau logo exactly as it is now, except on the backside. There's going to be different agent names, of course, because it's Crestwood office instead of LaGrange office, but that's basically it. And the names are going to be the same typeset, same font, same everything.
I thought you also said that it was going to be moved slightly.
Oh, that's correct. They are going to try to straighten it up a little bit. It is a little diagonal now. They're going to make it more straight, more perpendicular to the road, so it's more visible, I guess.
Yes, I'm probably too far from it.
Okay, any other questions for Joe or the applicants?
I am curious as to, obviously an off-premises sign, but purpose in the off-premises sign as opposed to, I mean, it's obviously for advertising purposes, but why not near the, or on premise as opposed to where it is located currently?
Well, where it's located now is in Buckner, and my clients may speak more to this, but it's in Buckner, so you've got people that are going towards LaGrange. So as they enter LaGrange, the LaGrange office, of course, is advertising there. And then as they're going towards Crestwood, which is, of course, adjacent to Buckner, it's going to advertise as people to welcome them, is, you know, kind of what it says, to welcome people into Crestwood. Anything to add?
Thank you.
Okay, further questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of the application? Those opposed? Any final words, final statements? Nothing?
You would approve it. Please.
Thank you. Okay, any questions by board members to anybody in the audience?
Just one for staff. Has there ever been any complaints about this sign from the public that you're aware of?
We have no record of any complaints, don't get any phone calls about it.
Okay, thank you.
And by the way, it doesn't obstruct sight distance at any point either.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll close the floor, open it up for general discussion. Well, I'll kick it off, I guess. So the existing sign is there, there's no change to it. It meets all regulations. We do need to make sure when drafting the motion that we're drafting the approval of the sign as well as the extension.
I probably should have asked this question of the applicants, but I'm wondering about maintenance of the sign, continued maintenance, if it were approved.
If the sign was to come in disrepair or anything, it could start the process through code enforcement.
Okay.
So we have procedures in place if the sign was to come in disrepair. But it's a metal sign. It's not wood. The poles are wood, but the sign cabinet is actually metal.
And also, I'd like to state that our...
Hang on,
Oh,
hang
I'm
on.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is there anything that we can ask the applicant at this
You
point?
have to open the floor.
I'd need a motion to open the floor.
Okay. May I make a motion to open the floor then, too?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine.
In regards to the question that you asked about maintenance, our corporate office provides funds to each agency for that sign on an annual basis, so we do maintain it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Thank you.
Okay, close the floor. Any other discussion? Okay. Willing to take a motion?
Discussion, is there, anybody see any restrictions need to be placed on it? We talked about where it's at. Right now, do we want to get specific or just allow the rules that apply? Are anybody intent on certain restrictions?
I think the existing rules are pretty definitive, and they're within those, so I don't see any need for anything additional. The property's maintained,
You don't see any?
it's not a problem.
The only discussion I heard that you could consider is that it's currently not a lit sign, and if you want to just continue it, make sure that it's a condition that they don't put lighting on it. That's in a fairly heavily traveled area of 146, and sometimes lights get distracting, but that's up to you. That's the only subject I heard during the discussion that might be considered.
Okay, anything else?
Move to approve OC-16-005 based on the evidence that fits within the conditional use permit off-premise sign restrictions, and that, per discussion, that those restrictions are well within no additional conditions except for that the sign will not be lit. So I move to approve the conditional use because the proposed use is desirable to the community and fits within the character and objectives, and the potential impacts on the community and surroundings are appropriate. Conditional use permit shall only apply to the application considered at the March 17th, 2016 Oldham County Board of Adjustments. And the condition as presented at the beginning of this, that the sign will not be lit.
Okay, very good. We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Very good, it's been passed. Okay, Mike, you want to read the second one?
Right. Docket OC 16006, an application has been filed requesting front yard setback and side yard setback variances for a proposed building on property located at 4800 Old LaGrange Road, Buckner.
All right, this is your final docket of the day. As Mr. Riley just stated, the applicant is requesting a front and side yard setback variances for a proposed structure. The property is owned I-2 heavy industrial. The existing land use, it's actually vacant land, but it is zoned industrial, and it's approximately 0.257 acres. This is an aerial, area. You'll see the square here. Our imagery from GIS, that there was actually a structure there, and I'll get to that in a minute, but that was the approximate location of the existing structure before it was demolished. This is the aerial view that shows that obviously it is now vacant. This is just a shadow from the neighboring building. There currently is no structures on the property. This is the current zoning, so everything outlined there, that you see the subject parcel is outlined in red. Everything in purple is I-2 heavy industrial. The red is I put C3, but it's actually C4, which is this area here. And then the yellow area is CO1 conservation, which that runs along the interstates and the railroad. On June 17th, 1999, the Oldham County Board of Adjustments approved docket 3015, a sign setback variance, allowing a sign to be placed 8.5 feet from the front property line. This was a variance of 91.5 feet, and I provided in your packets a copy of those minutes. The applicant is proposing to construct approximately a 2,900 square foot building for his business, which is called Ladane LLC. The applicant/owner purchased this property in November of 2005. Demolition permit was issued in December of 2008 to demolish and remove the existing structure that was located on the property. The applicant is requesting the following variances. The front setback of 55 feet, which would require a 45-foot variance. The right side yard setback of 10 feet, requiring a 15-foot variance, and a left side yard setback of 12 feet, requiring a 13-foot variance. And this was the graphic that the applicant had submitted, so I went in and outlined it a little bit better so we could see it on the overhead. This was the drawing that they submitted with their application that showed that the front building was they were asking for 55 feet, and then they were asking the 26 feet in the rear meets the required setback, so they're not asking a variance for that, but they are asking for a right side yard to be at 10 feet and a left side yard to be at 12 feet. According to the current deed, the property is 70 feet wide and 160 feet deep. Current I-2 regulations require a 35-foot side yard setback, making the lot unbuildable with variances, without variances. If the variances were approved, the applicant would be required to submit a site plan and landscape plan for staff review and approval. This was a rendering of the proposed building that the applicant submitted as well. This is looking into the subject property. The buildings you see here are on the adjoining properties. This is looking to the east along Old LaGrange Road. You'll see there's the subway and our infamous sign. Adjoining properties to the north and to the east. As I went to do site visits, I noticed that there were many structures that seemed closer to the road, so I took pictures and went back and to give you an idea of the character of the area. This is adjoining property to the north. I don't know, I had northeast, I guess, but I have it circled there on the map. You'll see this is the applicant's property, and this is the property that is just to the north of it. And it is, according to the file that we have on it from the plans, it's approximately 50 feet is the front yard setback there.
And that property's a residence? It's currently being used as a residence?
It appears to be, yes.
But it's zoned I-2.
It
I
is
just
zoned-
want to be clear,
yes,
it's zoned
sir.
I-2. but
It is
appears to be
zoned
used as a
I-2,
residence.
yes. Yeah, and there is the for sale sign that is there. This is another adjoining property. There are actually, on that tract that we just spoke of, there are actually 2 residences on that, and there was history in the file of them being allowed to do that with a conditional use permit. But just so that you're certain, there are 2 houses. This is the one we just looked at, and this is the subject one now. They both are approximately 50 feet, have a 50-foot front setback according to the file and the building plans.
And those 2 houses are located on one parcel?
Correct.
And that one parcel is I-2 and it's for sale. I know I'm
Correct.
repeating myself. I
Yes.
just want to be clear.
Yes, sir. This is adjoining property to the west, which is the CSX property. And this is the adjoining property to the south, which is the Gavi property. And according to their file, this building is 25 feet, has a 25-foot front setback. And then this is one that is just, again, north. These 2 properties here. One is 87.3 feet, and then this building here is only 10.7 feet front setback. And then these are other structures that are further north up the road from the subject property, and you'll see that according to our records, the front setback on one is 47 feet and the other one is 47 and a half. This is another business that is located on Old LaGrange Road. I did not have any numbers of how close this is on the property, the front setback. It wasn't listed on the permit application, and there was no current survey that I could find. So, in summary, industrial zoning district regulations, minimum lot area is 10,000 square feet, which they meet. The minimum lot width is 50 feet, which contradicts the minimum side yards, which we have fixed that in our zoning update, because the minimum lot width is 50 feet, but if you have 2 side yards, doesn't make sense, of 70 feet. So, the items in blue, those will be addressed if he is approved at the time that we review his site plan. So we ensure that the maximum density, structure height, maximum lot coverage, and impervious surface, that will be reviewed at the time of site plan. But the items that are in red is what he is asking a variance from, which is the minimum side yard setback of 35 feet and the minimum front yard setback, which is 100 feet. So in summary, this is what a front yard variance of 45 feet, a right side of 15 feet, and a left side of 13 feet.
Can you go back to the picture where it shows the overhead?
The aerial or
Right
that?
there, right there.
Okay.
Now, if I'm seeing the green line shows 55 feet, but if I'm looking at this right, isn't the to the right, the blue part closer by 18 feet?
Correct.
So we can't be asking for a 55-foot setback and then build within that 55 feet.
You may ask for clarification from the applicant, because that is the site plan that was submitted.
Yep.
But the building only shows 80 feet of the proposed plan. Shoot, I hit the wrong button.
Which is where I was headed next.
Right, and they showed this at 98 feet.
So, okay, we'll ask for
So
clarification.
you may
from the
ask the
applicant.
applicant that this part may be going away. You can ask for clarification on that.
Yep, you're gonna say the two didn't match, that's what I was
Correct.
trying to figure out.
Uh-huh.
Amy, can you go back to the one picture which showed an aerial view and several structures along the road there?
I don't know if I had,
Yeah, I think maybe that's, that might be it, but the structures there, I think you implied that several of them are that variances were obviously permitted in order to allow those structures to be built, or maybe said a different way, do you know how many of those structures were built prior to the current zoning?
I'm not sure what the zoning was at the time, what the front setback requirements were at the time when these buildings were built, so
Okay.
no. But there were a lot of them in there that did receive variances for front yards.
Okay.
I didn't document each case number or anything on that, but I was just trying to give you an idea of the location of the structures.
All right, then, let me ask, this may be an unfair question, but I'm going to ask and see if you can. So if you kind of go down through there, can you give us the setbacks that are currently in existence relative to?
They're on the screen right now. The two lots here that are highlighted. So one is 87.3 feet. The other one is 10.7. So this building here is only 10.7 feet from the front setback. This building here is 87.3.
Okay,
So then if you go to the next one, this is the applicant's property. Those two houses are located right here. One is 47 feet, and one of them is 47.5 feet.
okay. And the structure that's next door, what did you say the setback was?
Mr. Gavi's is 25 feet. This is the applicant's property highlighted in red, and then this is the neighboring property here, and it's 25 feet according to
Okay.
the building.
Okay, thank you.
On the, back to the question I asked, right there. Then how far is it, because it's cut off on my screen? It's 26 feet from the top?
Yeah,
From
this
back?
is the rear.
Rear?
whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they had on their plan.
Okay, and then the rear setback is supposed to be what?
25.
25.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Am I correct, the side setbacks also don't jive with the staff report on this, what was presented here? And we'll ask clarification
Yeah,
exactly what they want, but I'm saying
correct.
that,
Because the actual building plan that I emailed and asked for building renderings, and this is the building rendering.
Okay.
So it doesn't have, I think I hit the wrong button again. It doesn't have this bump out on that rendering, so you may ask clarification from the applicant.
Or the one on the back,
I'm sorry, sir?
or the one, the
This one,
building rendering doesn't have either the back or the side.
front. This is the front.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
front or-
front or side, yes, sir.
okay.
So you may ask clarification from the applicant or his attorney on that.
Sorry, what's the total width of the property?
According to the deed, it is 70 feet. It's 70 by 160.
Thank you.
And the property to the east is residential?
It's zoned industrial, but it is a residential use.
Residential use, but zoned industrial?
Correct.
So in my packet,
Our previous zoning regulations it was tiered zoning, so if you had a higher use, you could do anything that was allowed, that was permitted in the lower use categories. So it was allowed to be there.
so the lot from front to back is 160, and the packet it says 180, and this drawing,
His drawing reflects 180, yes. But
deed-
according to the deed, it is 70
it
by
says
160.
160. Okay.
Okay. Any further questions for Amy?
Obviously, we have to clarify some of this, so can you put the drawing back up again
Yes.
so we can go through that when the applicant gets up there?
Okay, if we can have the Barry come forward, or?
This is Mr. Wilson. He's the managing member of Ladane LLC. And he's going to testify, so if you want to get him sworn.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you can state your name and address.
Wilson, 4020 Sheehan Drive, Butner, Kentucky.
Great, thank you.
And I'm Barry Baxter, 117 West Main Street, LaGrange, Kentucky. I'm an attorney, and I represent Ladane LLC, the applicant. There is a little bit of confusion, and Amy, I'm going to let her, she's got this already, I know, but within your packet, the drawing, the proposed drawing of the building. And I think where the confusion has come in, first of all, the length, and I don't know if it's north and south, east and west, but basically if you're standing at the front of the property, the length of the building that was in the first drawing that he put was incorrect. This is the correct length, which is 80 feet. It is hard, and we can go back to that other one here in a second, but it's hard to visualize. But what appeared to be kind of a cutout is actually located right here. Okay, that is undercover, but it is not within the confines of the structure. So if we go back to the other one, what that little L cutout is actually that, okay? So the length here, which says 98, that is incorrect. That should be 80. And the requested 55-foot setback, the variance request is still correct. The building would be set back 55 feet. In addition, this, which was on the original drawing, is actually going to be a straight line right there. And so that little flange won't be necessary. And so the setback necessary is more like, we need a variance of about a foot, is all. Instead of going all the way to 12 feet, in order to get him, he'd be encroaching a little, and I don't want him to build the building and then, you guys have him so tight that you give him 6 inches or 8 inches. I'd rather him get a foot so he'd have just a little bit of room to manipulate that. So that's not going to be there anymore either. So we would ask to revise the requested variance on the left side from 12 feet. Actually, we just need a foot, I think is all.
Is there any way we can draw something on here that clarifies this? Because I'm honestly not tracking.
Amy, can you delete what I've drawn on here?
I did, I just did.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so when he originally submitted it, this was what his thought was about what his building was going to look like. Okay, now the drawing that I have here, and we'll go back to that in just a second. This area right here is undercover, but it is not within the walls of the structure.
It's kind of an open,
So
Carport.
Carport, I mean, I don't guess it's gonna be a carport for a business, but
Right.
nonetheless, that's what the purpose of that is, okay? And when he got the drawing of the building, he decided to remove this section entirely, so this is gone.
okay.
Okay, which means that the variance request that he had originally made to get to the 12 feet, he now really only needs a foot.
Only needs a foot.
Yes, sir, because none of that'll be there, and in order to build, he'll be at 24 feet from the property line as opposed to 12 feet from the property line.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Did that clarify for you?
It did to some degree. Now, the other building that you showed, the quote, real building, I did see that it was 42 feet in width, which is consistent with what you're showing here now. Was it 98?
No, sir, it is 80 feet.
80 feet. Okay, so, okay.
So down here, you can see the dimension is 80 feet. And so if you give him the variance, so he's 55 feet from the front property line, and so the 45-foot variance, that would give him room to be able to, I'm doing the math, you all are asking me, it's a little early to do math, but it's 120, that's 125 feet, and then it's 160, so he doesn't have any issue with the rear setback at that point.
What's the building made of?
Steel.
Width of the building is how long, or how wide?
42 feet.
42.
What activity would be going on in this building?
Pretty much just my warehouse and office. I have a contracting company.
What do you warehouse?
Equipment, scaffolding, trucks.
Any hazardous material?
Mortar's about the most dangerous thing I'll have.
And, you know, I mean, obviously the problem that, and he didn't realize this when he bought the property. He wasn't, you know, he just assumed there's an existing structure. He just put another building on there. And then he comes in to get a building permit and they're like, well, you've got some problems here. So that's why he is here asking to be able to put a structure on here. The neighborhood itself, are you familiar with where this location is? The footbridge right there. I mean, it's one, you go across 71 on the footbridge, and there's one property right here that is right up against almost, 10 feet from the roadway. Then there's this vacant lot. There's a lot of properties right through there that they're much closer than this is going to be to the property. Actually, this will kind of sit back and away from the road much more than those are. So,
Joe, how far is, what would be the distance between your building and the building to your right or to the south towards the interstate?
The one to right about 10 feet. And the reason I wanted to set it that close to that side is the lot falls off.
That's your setback, but how far is their building from the line, would you say?
Gosh.
10 feet or
No, it's it's less than 5 feet.
less than 5 feet? So the total distance between those two buildings might just be 15 feet.
Correct, yes.
This was this building here. It's kind of hard to tell, but that's the area you're speaking of.
Real close.
Amy, would you set this on there?
we don't know how close they are. From this aerial, it appears that they're probably within the setback already as well. This is their structure, the 4820, and the vacant lot is us, 4800.
It's hard to say.
Can we put up what I just drew? And I'm not an architect, so don't make fun here, but if I'm looking at, can you make that where you can see the bottom of it too, Amy? You have to narrow it in. See,
You got math here.
yeah, because at the top, we're saying the width of the property is only 70 feet. Yet if the side yard we're requesting is 24, the width of the building is 42, and the other side is 10, then that's 76 on a 70-foot lot. So I think that we've got some math that's wrong somewhere.
Okay. I'd recommend that the board consider taking a recess rather than the board working out these numbers and give Mr. Bagster an opportunity to do the math, come out, and very specifically ask for a corrected request.
I like,
It would
I
make a
would,
lot
I
more
would like, I
sense.
would like to see a corrected drawing.
Yeah.
Jim, I'm wondering if it, because of the questions and so forth, is it possible to table this and let them come back with some?
Well, I think that they could do that in a short period of time. If you're willing to take a 10-minute recess, they could come back with an actual request. That correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before someone makes a motion for that, I just want to say to either the applicant or staff, I'd be interested in knowing what activity is going on to that adjacent building as well. See,
Well, it's all industrial, and I'm going to just say it's some kind of industrial activity.
And I'm not sure the relevancy of what the
Yeah.
neighboring property is.
Let me just, this is an old industrial park. It's called the Buckner Industrial Park, and it's been there for a long, long time. That's why there are some houses, there are some new businesses, there are some old businesses, and it's just really kind of a conglomeration. You saw one photograph where there's a guy repairing vehicles. There was a couple of houses. There are a couple of houses along Old LaGrange Road that have been converted into businesses. There's been some demolished and brand-new buildings. So it's really, you know, to go down the whole road and tell you what everything is, it's just a mixed-use industrial park.
Yeah. So similar to what Rob just did on the math side, just want to take note that it is to the exact foot, front to back as well. So if you're looking at exact 160 feet usage, you just need to be cautioned that that's what you're asking for is exact measurement there. So
Yeah.
be careful.
Since we don't have any other cases today, and you're not going to hold anything up, if you don't, you have the patience to sit around for 10 minutes and
No,
take a
That
break.
sounds great to me.
Yeah, I'd
Could
rather
I
do that.
Get a motion?
Motion to recess for a short period of time until they're ready.
Is it possible to set clarification on time?
We can do that and then call extensions if need to.
Okay,
So
would you,
15?
I was going to
15.
say 15.
That's fine.
All right, we have a motion for a 15-minute recess. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? 15 minutes. Thank you.